Hi, my name is Claire and today I will not be sharing project analysis video. The next one coming up will likely be One Marina Gardens in the CCR region, but I will be covering a couple of topics over the next course of a couple of months on some of the deeper questions that people might be asking in terms of looking at properties as a whole, whether you're buying for investment or own stay. So today we're going to cover this topic. The question here is, does it make financial sense or does it make complete sense for you to swap your properties every 3 to 5 years? When I say 3 years, it's because for private properties, you do have the SSD period of 3 years before you can sell without paying tax to the government. For 5 years, it's if you're currently sitting on a HDB right now, you need to fulfill a MOP of 5 years before you can sell. Just a quick summary of what the video is going to cover, right? We're going to cover a case scenario and we're going to understand a few principles about why you should or should not swap your property in 3 to 5 years in a short time frame or possibly hold it for longer. So I'm going to cover a bit of pros and cons, and what you can expect is hopefully you can get some clarity on what you can do moving forward if you're sitting on whether it's a HDB or a private property today. So let's get started. I'll just jump straight in, right? So this is the case scenario number 1. This is a couple with 2 kids in their mid-30s. They have bought their BTO and the BTO has right now reached their 5-year MOP mark. Together, their combined income is about 13,000 a month. And right now, the BTO HDB that has reached 5 years MOP mark, where they can basically sell the property, is right now 550k in value. So now we come to a crossroads. When the HDB has reached its MOP, what do? One, they can sell the HDB at the value of 550k. At this point, because they're earning 13k a month, they can borrow up to 1.5 million loan at a 30-year tenure because they have not reached the 35-year mark yet. Their option is one, they can buy EC with no compromise in size or location at about 1.05 mil. So in terms of asset value, that's double of what they are currently holding on as a HDB. But in return of that, upgrading to EC, they'll need to fork out additional cash of $1,000 a month in cash after deducting your CPF funds, assuming that you're employed with CPF contributions. The other option at this crossroad is you stay put in a HDB. But staying put in a HDB also means that you are very comfortable, you have CPF funds accumulating in your CPF account because the mortgage that you pay for a HDB is more than sufficient for you to cover the mortgage and not be eating into any CPF. So these are two options. One, I sell the HDB and then I upgrade. Or two, I stay put in the HDB, it's comfortable, there's no need to fork out additional cash for mortgage, I can use the cash for something else. Then we come 3 years later. This is one example of HDB at Choa Chu Kang area and then the EC at Seoul Equus. So these are the two options that we're looking at. One is upgrade to the EC, two is stay put at HDB. And then if you look forward 3 years later, the EC has gone up in value over here of about 410k if let's say you enter at 1.05 million. If you had stayed put in the HDB, the value was 550, roughly about that. But over COVID, the cost of COVID years is also gone up about 115k. So this is a bit of a difference in terms of the appreciation that you will get if you took the step to do the EC option or you stay put. So appreciation is one thing. The other thing that I wanted to really cover is more of like the lock-in capital that you will get. Because you had gotten into EC, you cashed out on your HDB, you went into the EC, throughout the 3 years you were paying some mortgage as well. And 25% down payment, some mortgage that you have already paid, and the capital appreciation of 400 plus K, you would have locked up about 700 over $1,000. The other second option is if you had stayed put in the HDB has also appreciated, but the lock-in capital that you have gotten will be slightly less than half of what you have gotten if you had upgraded and paid that 1k a month. That's the part that is a little bit different because one, if you had upgraded to EC, yes, you had taken all your sales proceeds to pay for the down payment for the EC. You would have paid $1,000 in cash every month for your mortgage, but at the same time, there's no compromise in size or location. So that's the main difference. The locked up capital that you have gotten for upgrading to EC versus staying put in a HDB would have been double in the same period of time. So now, let's say we went for the option of staying put in a HDB. Now the value has gone up about 600 to 670,000 and today I want to upgrade. And this is the case scenario today, 3 years later. Now the HDB is valued at about 670k. After selling, I can cash out this amount which is above on top and I got additional 100k in savings in CPF because I've been accumulating over the years as well. And the couple right now with the 2 kids, they are now 40 years of age. And over the past years of working as well, their combined income is now 16,000 a month and they can borrow up to 1.7 million in terms of loan. So based on that, the family can now afford a 2.28 million property price. But in this case, their mortgage will have required them to fork out about $4,000 over in cash, and that's about 30% of the gross income. So normally when I talk to condo, either as upgraders or condo buyers, 30% of the gross income to be able to feed for the mortgage is just nice, not over leveraging as well. Because when the point of over leveraging is when you max out the TDSR. So the TDSR is 55%. 55% of your income can go to the monthly mortgage. mortgage. But in this case, 30% seems okay, still quite comfortable. But if I had compared to the lifestyle that when they were saying put in the HDB, it was totally no cash at all. But for now, to need to fork out about 4,000 plus maybe your maintenance of $300, that is about 5k cash that you're talking about. So the discomfort might be there because you've been living quite comfortably, right? You've been using cash in other ways. Now suddenly coming in to pay a 4,600 a month in cash might be a bit stretched in that sense. And at the same time, over the past 3 years, prices have gone up also. So these are the price trends for CCR, OCR and RCR region in terms of just looking at over the past 2 years on a quarterly basis. On average, the price of an OCR property has gone up about 2 million. So now on average, to go to an OCR property, you need to be paying about $2 million for a comfortable 3-bedroom. Okay, and then in the RCR region, it's gone up to about 2.5. But if you look back over the previous COVID years, the average was about easily 500k less. So having that jump also makes it a little bit harder for you to move because then you feel like, oh, maybe you are a little priced out. So these are the key points. One is the leveraging power between my case scenario one when I'm looking at option A to go into EC versus when right now the family is average age of 40 years old. The loan amount is more because they can earn more, but the loan tenure is shorter. And the reason why it's $4,600 plus maintenance of $300, for example, $5,000 a month is because by the time you're 40, the maximum loan that you can get in terms of the tenure, instead of 30 years, it's going to 25. And that makes a lot of difference. So a 5-year difference like that is easily about $500 to $800 a month kind of difference in terms of mortgage. And then the other point I wanted to also point at is understanding where the capital is. So if I had gone for the EC option, I would have locked in about 700 over K in terms of capital, which can feed a down payment for about a 2.8 million property thereabouts. Versus sitting on HDB and I only can lock in maybe about 500k, assuming you paid off some loan, you got some capital appreciation and the purchase price is very low. 500k, you can only maybe down pay for 25% without stamp duty for a 2 million property. So that's a lot of a difference, especially when in the market today for OCR region, to be able to get a decent unit is going to be around 2.3 to 2.5 million. In the new market, right now the average OCR prices are already going up at a 2.3 range for a compact 3-bedroom. So the whole idea of this is really understanding where the leveraging power is, being a little bit uncomfortable maybe to fork out a bit of cash for the mortgage, but at the same time locking in more capital, easily another 2.5 times more for you to be able to easily upgrade instead of coming out with more cash to be able to upgrade if you had chosen to stay put in the HDB. So we know that property, there's a life cycle in terms of property. Sometimes the price goes up, sometimes the price goes down, sometimes it stays stagnant for a period of time, right? So this is a classic example of how we're looking at properties over a 10 to 15 year or even a 20-year time frame. An idea of how maybe swapping a property in 3 to 5 years might do you a bit better. So this is Minton 2010. These people bought at about 800 per square foot, so relatively low. Subsequently, in the next 4 years, the property has actually increased about 56%. So from 800 plus, it has gone up to 1,003. And then this period was a period of kind of like stagnancy where the prices have gone up to peak and then they started hovering a little bit. And then you see the prices like kind of hover all the way down and it went down as well. So over the 7 years that we're talking about over this whole time frame, the property only increased about 13%. Well, if you had caught this time at a peak where it has gone up 56%, you exit and do something else, maybe you would avoid the dip. Okay? So what if we swap? Today, if let's say in the same way, I entered Minton 800 per square foot and then I decide, hey, I want to buy something else. And then I exit Minton at the high 1,003 per square foot. And then I entered Bartley, which is a new development, at 1,002 per square foot. I would have profited about 400 plus of even 500k on a 1,000 square foot property. I avoid the dip, and if I had swapped to Bartley from 1,002 PSF, I would have at least gained a little bit of money in a period where there isn't much movement in the property market in this 2013 to 2017 period. So the actual results is 1, we avoid the dip, and 2, go into a safer product that helps you make enough profit. So in this case, like, okay, let's say you sell Minton at the peak, which is 2013, exiting at about 400 to 600k profit. I swap and I buy Bartley Ridge. I would have avoided a little dip over here because some of the profits has gone down over a longer period of time, and I would have profited some amount in Bartley Ridge. The idea is to be able to catch the opportunity and to exit and then enter into something safer. So that's one example of swapping from somewhere Serangoon to something in a newer town in Bartley. And this one is something that I was studying when I look at the project analysis for Alta. So this is Clement. The blue line is Clement over here and the pink line is Clement Canopy. Of course, Clement Canopy is slightly older than Clement. Clement just TOP recently. So at this juncture where I am looking at, should I enter into Clement or should I enter into Clement Canopy? Then at this point, Clement Canopy is actually cheaper, slightly less than 100 PSF cheaper than Clement, and should I enter into new or into resale? So this is also at the crossroads, right? But over the years, you realize that actually because the developer for Clement is only one seller, while Clement Canopy has hundreds of sellers over here, they have the right to kind of determine the price where it fluctuates. So whenever it goes down, it takes a while to come back up. Because once it goes down, people will set the benchmark over here and say, hey, I want a unit over here. It takes a while to kind of climb back up. So in this case, you realize that actually for Clement, if you had bought into Clement slightly a bit more expensive, you will have gained about 33%. But if you enter Clement Canopy at a lower price, slightly lower price, you would have only gained 22%, right? So there's a 10% difference in just really choosing side-by-side kind of condo. But of course, there is also cost of swapping. When you sell, there's cost to selling, and moving to another place, there is also cost as well. So I just want to lay out a bit more about like what is the cost that we're looking at and whether it's worthwhile or not. So one, buyer stamp duty for buying the next property. If you stayed put in the same property for 10 years, you wouldn't have to pay buyer stamp duty. If you had swapped, you will need to sell. So selling will require an agent for you to sell that property, and that includes agent fees. Moving costs, hire a mover, get boxes and all that, that will cost you another $1,000. Wi-Fi relocation, something small but still included in one of the costs that I would consider. And renovation costs. Obviously, if you buy something in the resale market, maybe you want to change the toilet a bit or hack the kitchen a little bit. So there will be some costs involved. And the cost total will sum up to about 60 to 70,000. And it seems like a lot, but if you look at whether the cost of swapping, does it compensate for the potential growth that you get? So in this case, when we look at the first example in the case scenario, if I had gotten the EC, my property would have appreciated 400,000 versus 115,000 over here. So then 400,000 minus 70k, you still are better off staying in the HDB also. In the same way, the Minton example, you profit 500k overall by selling the Minton at a high and swapping to something that's a bit safer. You profit 500k. 500k minus 70,000 is 430. It's still more than double of what you would have gotten if you had held Minton for a longer period of time. So here are the principles that I would want to talk about. So the power of leveraging, making sure that you leverage at the right time and bear the reasonable risk. I may not have emphasized this much in this video, but for the case scenario that I was talking about, 35 years old, I can borrow this amount of money based on my income, but I can also loan up to 30 years. When I hit 40 years old, my maximum loan tenure is only 25 years. In this case, a 5-year difference for a same loan amount, for example, is about $800 in terms of monthly installment every single month. So if you had leveraged maybe a right time where you're younger, a little bit uncomfortable because earnings are not that much, but you would have been better off and more comfortable because you have locked in more capital. Okay. The other one is right time to swap. I've shown in the example of Minton and Bartley, when we understand how prices are going in the resale market, whether there are lowering transaction volumes or not, how your project is performing as compared to the rest of the areas, because every area has different demand pool, is understanding when to exit at the right time. I think that's a question that everybody wants to know, but it really depends on the area as well. Yeah, we don't know when prices might just hover or stagnate for a period of time or even drop. If let's say you have one seller who decides to, okay, I'm going to drop the price, and then that will set the benchmark for your future neighbors wanting to sell, and that is going to be hard. The other one is reasonable risk. Of course, talk about whether you're 35, whether you're 40 this year, and the amount that you're earning. Best is not to over leverage. My general guide is about 30% of your gross income instead of maximizing that 55% TDSR. So then you can moderate from there. Even though you can borrow this much, to lower a little bit, such that 30% of your gross money income goes to your mortgage, and I think that's okay, that's healthy and fair. But most importantly, right, if you're going to make a swap and if you're going to make a switch, you do not want to enter into a project where it's going to not make it worth or even cover that 70k kind of for swapping. Choosing the right project is very important. Choosing the right project to buy to maximize your returns on investment, basically. Okay, so a couple of things if I want to really just touch on choosing the right project. One, if you can find a new project that is the same price as resale, that's something to look out for. Two, if let's say your layout is more superior than others and not unique, just more superior in terms of the future buyers coming in, if they look at other layouts around your area versus what you have and it's going to be a bit more attractive than others, then that's something that you can afford to maybe pay a little bit premium more, but not too much. And then the third thing is more of an entry price. If let's say you are entering at a PSF or even a quantum that is lower than a lot of other people that are transacting around the area already, then that's an opportunity because that's something that you can cushion some profits on because other people have already transacted higher. Okay, so if you're curious to find out more and you want some tips in terms of thinking about swapping and looking at what choices you have in the market and what to explore, you can feel free to reach out to me. Right, I hope the tips and the principles will help you understand a bit more about whether you should swap or not to swap. Also, at the same time, if you're holding on to a 99-year property versus a freehold property, different principles apply as well. Okay, so this is my number and my social media. If you want, you can pause this video and then you can scan the QR code to just WhatsApp me, and if you have any inquiries, happy to help you out online first. Okay, so I hope that you guys have benefited from this, and I'll see you in the next video.